Hey y'all, I'm Carrie, and this is Monstrous. So, we're back for our Sunday episode. Ashley is with us again.
Hello, everybody.
So, our last two Sunday episodes were kind of heavy. They were unsolved cases. Our next Sunday episode is going to be an unsolved case as well. For some reason, I find myself diving into the unsolved cases. I'm not really sure why.
Because that's the type of person you are.
I don't know. I feel like unsolved cases are intriguing because it's like, why was it not solved?
But yeah, you're curious. You want to know.
Exactly. And then I feel like there's still hope for it to be solved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you want to know what happened and justice for that family. And, why is it so many years and it's not solved?
Exactly. So, that being said, I thought this week we would do something a little lighter. Like, it's dark, but it's the dark tale behind another Disney. So it's dark, but it's not real. So it's a little lighter.
All right.
So, as children, we all love the Disney movies, right? Even as adults, most of us still love the Disney movies.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially if you have kids, you can't not love Disney.
No. Unless if you're like my kids are just obsessed with YouTube.
Yeah. But I feel like young kids, you can put in a Disney movie and they're just like entranced with it.
True.
Once they reach our kids' ages, it's like, fuck that movie. I don't want to watch it.
Like Elena, she's been mostly obsessed with SpongeBob, and I don't know why.
I feel like almost every kid is obsessed with SpongeBob.
I never played it before until Isabel put it on the TV, and now she's glued to it. And Isabel is so obsessed with it, you call her name and she can't even fucking hear you because she's so obsessed with the damn TV.
I loved SpongeBob.
Didn't they take it off TV?
No, they still play it. Or at least last I knew they did anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. I used to love SpongeBob. Hell, they just came out with this SpongeBob movie that I think it was this year or last year. Me and the boys watched it. I used to love SpongeBob.
I didn't know they came out with the movie.
I was so let me tell you how obsessed with SpongeBob I was as a kid. Okay. I was so obsessed with SpongeBob as a kid that my dad tattooed SpongeBob characters on his leg.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Yes.
I'm surprised you don't have one.
I want an Invader Zim tattoo. Fucking loved that show. Still love that show. Anyway, back to our tale for today. Sorry, guys. So, Disney tales are woven into the culture that we have today. It's found all around us. With every holiday, there's Disney decorations. In California, Paris, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, you can find Disneyland, while in Florida, you have Disney World. With every little girl born is too a new family that is entangled in the Disney fantasy. So some would say that it's a part of our DNA by now. And for nearly every little girl, there's one story that captivates them the most. Today, I'm going to tell you the dark tale behind Cinderella.
Cinderella.
So, Disney's animated tale of Cinderella was released in 1950. Can you believe that?
That's a long time.
You want to know how old that makes Disney's version of Cinderella?
Old.
74 years old.
Old.
That means Mama was a kid when Cinderella came out. Like, it's just mind blowing to realize how old this is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, the Disney tale obviously holds pieces of her mistreatment. but it focuses more on the kindness and resilience that Cinderella shows to those all around her. And it is definitely more family friendly and heartwarming than that of both original tales. But does any of us really know the true story behind this Disney classic? In the 1697 version of Cinderella, she is subjected to extreme cruelty. And the Grimm brothers version that most of us know is the one that inspired Disney's tale is much darker. So the original Disney tale is much older than 74 years old. The very first version of Cinderella came out 327 years ago. So 3 centuries.
Yeah.
Families and children, people all over the world have heard Cinderella's story. How crazy is that?
That's crazy. That's a long time.
Yeah. So in the original Cinderella, there's no cute animals, so Jack and Gus Gus don't really exist. There is no white round carriage. There's no mice turning to men or horses. It is much, much darker than that. Disney, of course, toned down the cruelty and the gruesome nature of the tale. So, everyone get ready because your childhood view of Cinderella is about to be completely shattered. So, let's do a recap of the Disney tale. Cinderella's mother died when she was young. Her father goes on to remarry. And then he later dies too. This leaves Cinderella with her stepmother and stepsisters, who are all evil and treat Cinderella like a maid rather than family. The king goes on to announce that he's holding a ball for his son to hopefully find a wife, and every young woman, including Cinderella, become excited and hopeful with the possibility of marrying the prince. In the movie, she is told that she can only attend the ball if she completes a long list of chores that her stepmother gave her, along with helping her stepsisters get ready themselves. Cinderella does exactly this, and with the help of her animal friends like Gus Gus and Jack, make a ball gown for herself. Then on the night of the ball, she comes downstairs full of hope and happiness, and that's quickly dashed when her stepmother and sisters see just how beautiful she is, especially since her stepsisters are nothing in comparison. And so they attack her, destroying her dress. She runs off, begins to cry, and then her fairy godmother swoops in, sings the classic fairy godmother song we all know, and saves the day, giving Cinderella that iconic blue ball gown and the glass slippers, topped off with magic to ensure no one would recognize her. But there was a catch. It only lasted until midnight. Cinderella took off to the ball in the white, round, horse drawn carriage full of mice and pumpkins that had been turned into the carriage itself, doormen, and horses. She arrives at the ball, she meets the prince, and they instantly fall in love. She loses track of time, and on the first strike of midnight, she takes off running from the castle with the prince chasing behind her. She loses one of her glass slippers. Then the prince goes on to search for her everywhere, leaving no home unsearched and no rock unturned. Once the prince arrives at their home, Cinderella is locked upstairs. Obviously, the slipper doesn't fit her stepsisters, and as the prince goes to leave, he hears Cinderella upstairs crying out and demands that she be brought down. The slipper fits her, and she lives happily ever after. That's the classic Disney version of Cinderella that we all know.
Yes, it is.
But where did Disney get the tale from? What inspired the all favorite Disney classic? Well, Cinderella became popular after Charles Perrault wrote his adaptation of the tale in 1697, which is the original tale of Cinderella. And it's much darker and more gruesome than that of Disney. I couldn't find this specific version to be able to actually read it and completely tell the differences between the two, but what I could find was that many things in the Disney movie do follow along with the original tale, but they're extremely different. Cinderella's mother does die, and her father does remarry, giving Cinderella not only an evil stepmother, but evil stepsisters as well. However, in the original version, her father does not die, but he isn't really a gem either. He joins in with his new wife and stepdaughters in humiliating Cinderella just as they do. The king holds a festival, not a ball, and the festival lasts 3 days to find his son's future queen. Everyone in the kingdom hears of it and prepares to attend, but Cinderella isn't allowed to go. But she decides to attend anyway. And in this tale, there is no fairy godmother. She attends and does it all completely on her own. And that's the extent of the research that I could find on the original version because, I mean, it's over 300 years old. Kind
Real
of
old.
hard to find a copy of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So this version is the version that inspired the Grimm brothers' tale. The Grimm's brother tale is the tale that inspired the Disney version, but it didn't completely inspire it on its own. Because if the original inspired Grimm brothers, the Grimm brothers inspired Disney, Disney was kind of inspired by both. So the version that we know today is meant for the whole family, right? Family friendly, happy rainbows and unicorns fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
But the tales it's based on was never meant for children in any way. This was an adult tale from the very beginning. So Cinderella gained most of its popularity from the Grimm brothers. And then obviously Disney made it into what it is today. So in the early 1800s, Jacob and Willem Grimm were working as librarians. They were both born into a well off family, but their lives took a dark and drastic turn when their father died. So the brothers struggled through school and were thrown into poverty. But both men were keen scholars, and even though librarians were not paid well, the job gave them time and the opportunity to research and put together the collection of tales that we all know today. The project that they took on to produce these adult fairy tales seems like a fun and whimsical task, right?
Yeah.
But it was much larger than that. These tales were part of a political movement in Germany. So the tales that we all love weren't for entertainment. They were done as a political movement. And it just became what it is now, which is crazy to me.
That is crazy.
So during this time, Germany had been split into 200 wanted many residents, the 200 principalities, wanted to see them come together and be one country. In order to accomplish this, many writers and scholars were turning to traditional folk tales to explore what German identity was. The theory that they had all believed was that these stories would be passed down from one generation to the next and go on to tell the hopes, fears, and morals of the German people. So the Grimm brothers were far from the only ones to publish their work, but they were the only ones that ended up with the most known tales and who eventually became known because of those tales. Because everybody knows who the Grimm brothers are. And all of that came from a political movement.
That is crazy.
So the Grimm brothers published 4 volumes of tales. And each of their tales were inspired by others that had already been written, but they were changed in ways such as using German language, phrases, and even including the gory details inside each of the tales. So the tales that we know from the Grimm brothers were inspired by other tales that came from all over the world.
Awesome.
So those of us that have looked into where the Disney favorites have come from, know that the original tales are much darker than what we know and what we watch with our own children. But what is most shocking is just how much darker these tales truly are. And I'm going to slowly work my way through each one because I have the entire book of Grimm Brother Tales. So we're going to slowly work our way through each of them. So in the Grimm Brothers tale, just like the other Cinderella tales, her mother dies, her father remarries to an awful woman, bringing with her two beautiful daughters who were extremely ugly on the inside. They mistreat Cinderella, not only using her to do their chores, but also taking away her bed and making her sleep with the cinders and making her wear rags instead of the beautiful clothes that her father had bought her. You know what cinders are, right? So cinders are like, is basically like the wood left over from your fireplace.
Oh.
Basically what it is. Yeah. So they mistreated her. She had to do all of their chores, right? But then they also took her damn bed away and made her sleep with the fucking cinders,
That's messed up.
right? Then she had to wear rags instead of the actual clothes that her dad got for her. The
No,
fuck,
thank you.
right? So it leads us to wonder what happened to her dad, and did he die in this version like he did in the Disney one?
Right.
Because he's not doing anything, right? So is he not there? No,
Or does he
he
not?
is very much still alive. Yeah, he just didn't do anything to stop it. He was very much alive, just didn't care enough to be like, "Hey, don't do that." So at some point, her dad goes on a trip, just like he did in the Disney tale. And just like in that one, before he left, he asked the girls what they wanted him to bring back. The two stepdaughters, of course, asked for something expensive, but Cinderella simply wanted the first twig that brushed against his hat. So upon his return, he gave each of the girls what they had asked for. And in order to deal with the sadness and torture that Cinderella felt every day, she took the twig her father had gave her and planted it by her mother's grave. She had cried so hard when she planted that twig that it grew into a tree, and a white dove appeared from it. She then went on to visit her mother's grave 3 times a day, and each time she cried, a white dove appeared. Anytime Cinderella uttered a wish, the dove granted it. So it seems like Cinderella was kind of magical in her own way. Like she never needed a fairy godmother.
Right.
So just like in the original version of Cinderella, the 1697 version, the king announces that he's hosting a 3-day festival to find his son's bride. And all the girls are excited and planning, including Cinderella. In the days leading to the festival, Cinderella called on the birds for their help to complete her chores, bring her shoes and dresses. Cinderella is forced by her stepmother to perform tasks in order to go, but in the end, she is still told she cannot attend. And still, her father, knowing his daughter could become a princess, does nothing to stop his wife. So in the Grimm brothers' tale, instead of Cinderella going on the stone patio and crying and her fairy godmother appearing, she goes to her mother's grave and prays. And then magic happens. Cinderella is enthralled in a beautiful gold and silver gown and slippers to match. And no one at the festival is able to recognize her. When night falls and Cinderella is ready to go home, the prince says, "Oh, I'll walk you to your house to protect you and see where you live," because that's not fucking creepy or anything.
Right.
Just saying. But she was able to get away from him. She, like, dove into a pigeon house and escaped through there. The prince told his father what happened, and the king thought to himself, "Oh, it couldn't be Cinderella." I'm not really sure why he thought of Cinderella first off, but for some reason he did.
Huh.
So then the king went on to have the pigeon house cut down just to see if anybody was in it, rather than just, opening the door. He had it chopped down.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. So the next day, Cinderella returned to her mother's grave after her family had left to attend the festival. She called for her dress. But this time, the dove brought her a dress even more beautiful than the one before. This time, the prince was standing outside the festival waiting for her to return. He danced with her all night and kept all other men away from her. Which, that's a whole nother subject. When night fell again, she was ready to leave. The prince followed her to see where she lived. But again, she was able to get away from him by leaping up into a pear tree. Which, how in the world this girl leaped up into a pear tree in some heels and a dress, I'm not sure. But she did. When the king arrived, the prince told his father the maiden had slipped away from him using the pear tree. And again, the king thought no way it was Cinderella and chopped the pear tree down.
Really?
Like, oh, we're not going to see this girl in this giant ball gown in this pear tree. So let's chop it down and see if she's still up there. Yep. Of course, she wasn't there.
Wow.
On the last day of the festival, Cinderella had returned to her mother's grave after her family had left and called upon the tree again. A dove appeared and gave her a dress that had splendor and brilliancy never before seen. And her slippers this time were not made of glass, they were made of gold. The events on this night followed like the 2 days before, but this time the prince had a plan to catch Cinderella, which is not fucking creepy at all, by the way. Like, take a hint, bro. You're being a fucking creep right now. But I digress. So, he had covered the castle steps in tar.
And tar?
Yes. So that way, when Cinderella went to take her escape, she would get stuck.
Really?
But she was able to get out of it. How did she get out of the tar, you might ask? By taking her shoes off. He didn't think that one through very well.
No, he didn't.
So the prince had told his father that no one would be his bride except for the woman that fit the shoe. And so the prince goes on and he searches high and low for her. When he finally reaches Cinderella's house, her stepsisters each try on the slipper. And of course, we all know neither of them could fit it. But they didn't simply accept the defeat and move on. Each sister took a morbid turn to try and force the slipper to fit. So the first stepsister tried on the shoe, saw it didn't fit, and told her mother. Her mother had told her, once you are a princess, you will have no need to walk. And then told her daughter to cut off her big toe. So she tells her daughter, oh, don't worry about it not fitting. Just cut off your toe. And what does the
Cut off my
stepsister do?
toe.
Yep. And the
Oh.
stepsister cut her toe off.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yep. She cut off her big toe to make the shoe fit.
Would you do that?
Fuck you. No. I need my toe. I like walking. The prince saw that the shoe fit and apparently didn't examine it very well. He took the stepsister onto his horse as his new bride. As they passed Cinderella's mother's grave, two pigeons sat on a hazel bush, and they cried out, quote, there they go, there they go. There is blood on her shoe. The shoe is too small, not the right bride at all.
Okay.
This is whenever the prince actually took a look at the damn shoe and realized that there was blood on it. How that wasn't obvious, I'm not sure, but it wasn't. So he took her back home and said she wasn't the right girl, and the other sister had to try the shoe on. So the second stepsister tried the shoe on. It didn't fit. She told her mother. This time, her mother told this stepsister, once you are princess, you will have no need to walk. And so she told her to cut off her heel. And the stepsister cut her heel off. Then the prince, seen it fit, and took the second stepsister as his new bride. Why he can't see all the blood, I don't know. I don't understand that part.
Yeah, no.
Like, there would be a lot of blood,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but I don't know. It's kind of baffling to me. I can't wrap my head around it. Anyway, so as they went by Cinderella's mother's grave, the same two pigeons who sat on the hazel bush cried out again, quote, "There they go, there they go. There is blood on her shoe, and the shoe is too small, not the right bride at all." And again, this is when the prince was like, "Oh, maybe I should examine to see if the shoe really fits." And he
Okay.
saw the blood from where she'd cut her heel off. He returned to the home and asked if they had any other daughters. Cinderella's own father said no, only the girl that his dead wife had left behind.
Well, that's kind of harsh.
Right? Like that is your daughter. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Then her father said that it was impossible for the bride to be her. But the prince demanded that she be brought down anyway. And so Cinderella finally tries on the slipper, and of course, it fit. And then, like every other tale, they lived happily ever after. The end.
The end.
No, I'm just kidding. The only one that actually got a happy ending was Cinderella. So
Yeah,
what
she
happened to
deserved.
everybody else, right? Everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, karma got him. And in this tale, karma was a bird, or two birds to be more specific. So ultimately, Cinderella forgives her stepsisters for treating her so poorly, and she invites them to her royal wedding. They're actually in the wedding party, one on each side of the new princess to be. Which I'm just gonna say, bitch, you ain't gonna be in my wedding. Get the fuck out of my face.
For
You have to
sure.
sleep in a bed, and I have to sleep off the cinders. Go away.
For sure.
So on the way to the altar, two pigeons appeared, and they each perched up right on Cinderella's shoulders, one on the right, one on the left, and they each pecked one of the sisters' eyes out.
What?
Yep. Then this ceremony goes on, and all is happy, like nothing happened. Then, on the way back from the altar, each sister is now on the opposite side of the new princess. The pigeons appear, they perch up on Cinderella's shoulder, and then each bird picks out the other eye remaining on each stepsister. So now, each of the stepsisters have no eyes
Good. They
because
deserve it.
pigeons peck them out, dooming them both to spend the rest of their lives blind for their ugliness and misdeeds. And that is the dark tale of Cinderella.
Hmm.
So I think everyone that hears this episode will think twice about dressing their daughters up as Cinderella for Halloween.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Because the only one that gets a happy ending is Cinderella. So I do have a couple photos that's going to go along with this episode. It'll be on our Facebook page with our sources. That link's going to be in the episode description like always. Um that's it.
Awesome.
It's kind of fucked up, but it's kind of
A
fun
little
to
bit.
know where all the Disney movies that we grew up watching and loving come from.
Yeah, the true facts behind everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty fun. So, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off about
Nope, that'll do it.
the story or anything? Nope. All right. Well, then we will be back next Thursday for another spooky episode, our last spooky episode before our Halloween double feature. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks for another unsolved case. This case is 112 years old this year. So it's an old one. It's a cold case. It's been cold for a long time. So definitely tune in 2 weeks to hear that one.
112 years.
Yep.
It's a long time.
Yes. This case, it involved 2 trials, multiple lawsuits, countless suspects, so it'll be a good one.
Definitely sounds like it.
Oh, yeah. So make sure you tune in for both of those. We hope you keep listening, and remember to
Definitely watch for monsters.
and don't kill people. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Stay spooky, guys.
Please be sure to rate and review so we can make sure we give y'all a podcast you love. Be sure to subscribe so you get notifications each week when episodes air.
If you want to send us a case or a topic suggestion, you can email us at monstroustcpod@gmail.com.
Also, be sure to check out our Facebook page for updates along with information and photos for each week's episodes.